Brian Foster, and this is the Grindhouse Institute. On each episode of this podcast, Jeremy Floyd and I program a double or triple feature movie night. Each of the movies share common themes, and we discuss them. We're happy you could join us for today's block we call the Scream Requels. Today we'll explore the final two films in the Scream franchise thus far. After an 11-year break, Wes Craven signed on to direct Scream 4, his final film. A worthy follow-up, reboot, sequel to the original trilogy. However, this follow-up did not see a huge box office draw, and it seemed like the franchise was put to rest. But cut to 11 years later, and all of a sudden we get a fifth entry, which is doing gangbusters at the box office. So now it won't be long before we get another sequel. When Sidney Prescott shows up to Woodsboro promoting her new book, the cycle of murder continues again. With the help of Gale and Dewey, the team must ensure the safety of a new, younger group terrorized by Ghostface. Roger L. Jackson, Emma Roberts, and Rory Culkin star in Wes Craven's final film, Scream 4, from 2011. And since I still haven't seen Scream 5, I know, I'm going to turn this over to Jeremy, who will take you into today's show.
Hello?
Hey, who's this?
The more impatient version of the person you just spoke to.
Well, do you like scary movies? Let me give you a 25-minute recap of all the Stab movies, just in case you haven't seen any of them. That way the marketing team can feel justified for simply naming the movie Scream. It's 2022, and the requel to 1996's Scream is called Scream. Is that enough of a synopsis for you? If not, I'm gonna be the last person you're gonna see alive.
It's a prank, hang up.
Oh, and this isn't Jeremy. Thank you for listening to the Grindhouse Institute. Please enjoy.
Excuse me, I have to geek out. I didn't get a chance to say something earlier, but it's such an honor to meet you.
Thank you.
Rebecca Walters.
Hi.
When I was a kid, it was all about Top Story with Gale Weathers. You were my 90s.
Hello, Sydney. It's an honor.
All right, welcome back, everybody, to the Grindhouse Institute. I'm Brian Foster, and with me, as always, is Jeremy Floyd. Hello, and how are you?
If you hang up on me, I'm gonna get you like a fish!
Ooh. I'm going to sick my boyfriend after you. He's big and he plays football, and he's going to kick your ass.
Excuse me, he's gonna kick the shit out of you.
Oh.
Not your ass.
Did I do the Luke Wilson version of that one?
Yeah. You did the stab line, sorry.
Yeah, right. I did a stab line. Welcome back. We are going to be talking the fourth and fifth Stab films. Now, it's Scream films. We're going to be continuing our discussion of the Scream franchise. Very exciting talking about this with another appearance by a special guest. Jeremy, would you mind doing the intro?
Absolutely. Well, if you listen to our last episode, I think you'll know who's coming. But we had to do it, folks. We had to bring him back. The biggest Scream fan in the world, Johnny Berchtold. There he is.
What's your favorite scary movie?
The answer is Scream, and it will always be Scream.
Yeah, can you answer Scream in a Stab movie?
I'm like,
oh no!
Yeah. If I was Ghostface, my line would be, "What's my favorite scary movie?" And that's the trivia, and then they have to answer and tell me Scream.
So we're talking Scream 4 and Scream 5, as Jeremy has called them, the 21st century Screams, now that we're taking, I guess, more than a decade in between each of these sequels to have a new one come out.
A guy named Billy Loomis and his friend carved up a bunch of high school kids, and every decade or so, some idiot gets the bright idea to put on the mask, kill his friends, and get famous too.
Actually, 11 years in both cases, right?
Yeah, exactly. So, well, just for full disclosure, I will be having to duck out of here once we get done talking Scream 4, as I have not yet seen Scream 5. And as we were mentioning earlier, that this would not be a cinema podcast if, we didn't avoid spoilers. So we'll definitely talk Scream 4. One of my most favorite of the sequels. I'll start by saying that. I actually enjoyed it very much. Wow. Felt like it was a bit of a rehash of Scream 1, which I think that was...
I love Scream 4.
Yeah, I thought Scream 4 was actually pretty good, so take it away, Johnny. Let us know about your Scream 4, your vibes, you know.
Look, I mean, I'll just say, I was not 2 years old when this one came out, okay?
Right.
So I got to see this one in theaters.
Right.
Is this the one that got you into the other Screams?
Oh no. I did Scream 1, 2, and 3. So by the time Scream 4 came out, I was there opening night. I had my popcorn. This was my everything. This was...
It looked like the opening of Scream 2.
Yes. The way I've been acting about the new Scream is how I was acting then with Scream 4. And I thoroughly enjoyed it as well. I think I love this opening, the opening of this movie.
Yes.
I think it's so clever. I mean, we overlook the weird glow that's over the film, but interesting.
You didn't, apparently.
No. But this was Wes Craven's last movie as well, and
Yep.
so forever it will have a special place in my heart because I have wonderful memories attached to this one. And also, I believe that this film was a little bit ahead of its time, and I think the box office sort of shows that it didn't really do what they wanted it to do. But I think it's getting a lot of love now.
A fucking Facebook killer? You're kidding me, right?
I guess now it would be Twitter. That make more sense.
The motives, a lot of like what this new Scream is accomplishing, I think Scream 4 was doing as well, and we weren't at a time. We were at a time when it was all remakes, right? And that's what this movie is commenting on, is remakes. So
Right. I mean, because we like a couple years before this, we got the Rob Zombie Halloween, and then weren't they rebooting Texas Chainsaw and Friday the 13th? I mean,
and we get the amazing Hayden Panettiere monologue when she's just rapid firing off all the remakes that have come out in the past 10 years. And it's such a great moment in the movie. It's in the trailer.
Halloween, Texas Chainsaw, Dawn of the Dead, The Hills Have Eyes, Amityville Horror, Last House on the Left, Friday the 13th, A Nightmare on Elm Street, My Bloody Valentine, When a Stranger Calls, Prom Night, Black Christmas, House of Wax, The Fog, Piranha. It's one of those, right? Right?
It's also poking fun at the fact that franchises go on for far too long, and we see that in the opening here with the false openings of Scream 6 and Stab 6 and Stab 7.
Yeah.
Very self-aware, but very, very clever and very well done. Yeah. And the cameos were great.
Amazing cameos. We love to see Anna Paquin, and that moment when she's like, there's no sense of surprise anymore. She's like, did that surprise you? Now she's like, now shut the fuck up and watch the movie. I just remember sitting in the theater and being like, what? That wasn't real either?
Yeah.
It got to the point where the very next one, I thought that one also wasn't real. And like, I didn't realize till sort of like way later in the movie, I was like, oh, that did happen. I thought that was just another stab.
Yeah.
You can see everything coming. Ah!
Did that surprise you?
This is also another one, too, that the legacy characters are really at the forefront again. And it's like their movie. I mean, Gail bows out halfway through because she gets beaten and has spent a lot of time in the hospital. But, I mean, Sydney is the main character.
But she's in the climax, though. So.
Oh, no, yeah. Everyone's always in the... Yeah, absolutely. But it really does shine the spotlight back on the legacy characters as like the trio, and and I love Sydney's like journey by this point, because I've always said watching these movies I feel so bad for Sydney Prescott. I mean all of them, but like damn, her life sucks.
Yeah.
And so to see her in this one, having done the therapy, having done all of the the work, and now she's this like esteemed writer. She's writing her book, Out of Darkness. Which I would love to own that prop, by the way.
Yeah. Need to contact Allison Brie. Yeah.
Yeah.
And the last stop on her book tour about not being a victim anymore is, of course, in Woodsboro. And things are not going well anymore because the killings start back up. I'm like, Sydney? They call her the Angel of Death in this one?
Yeah. Yeah, this is when she gets that moniker, right? That she is, everything she touches dies, or people around her keep dying. Yeah.
Yeah.
It seems like that's the direction they were going.
Yeah, and it does, you're right about it feeling a lot like the first one, because we get that young cast again that's like the tight-knit group of friends who like talk about horror movies and thing. And of course, that's Scream 1 and Scream 2 and 3 sort of had these like bigger ensembles of like, you know, adults, and but this goes right back to high school and you know, where it all started. So inevitably it was going to feel a lot like the first one, which I do love about it as well.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, and I guess we finally see the culmination of will they, won't they, they do for a while with Dewey and Gail, right?
Yeah.
Because they start off married in this one.
Yes.
But also what's wild is like, and why I think this helps transition us into a new era of Scream is how much they sort of amp up the violence in the movie.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, like the very first kill, I like, you know, she gets her throat slit and it's just like pouring, and we just linger on it for, you know, like
you watch
a
it
beat,
all.
another beat, and another beat, and you're like, holy shit. Like,
yeah.
This isn't going to stop. You know?
Relentless. Yeah.
And, you know, and then the neighbor across the street, or you know, the next house over, when she gets shredded by the ghost face, like, you know, the entire room and the hallway is like spattered with blood. It's just
there was a rain machine but of blood in the room. Sidney like walks in there and is like, oh no. Jill tries to walk up. She's like, don't look, Jill. And it's like basically Nightmare on Elm Street, Freddy Krueger, Johnny Depp situation. I'm like,
Johnny Depp just got ripped through the bed. Yeah.
What the fuck? How did they accomplish that? Yeah. I love it.
Right.
So good.
It shoved a grenade down her throat and it just exploded everywhere.
Right.
And even like at the very, very end, during the sort of the big reveal scene, like the violence gets amped up there as well.
Yes.
And okay, so the movie has a slightly different look, like you've brought up a couple times. And in that look, it's not only the sort of the gauziness that's there, but also like, you know, I feel like the darks are much darker, and like, you know, the movie
Punchier.
has this kind of stark look to it. Exactly. And like you think about the Allison Brie being stalked in the parking garage scene.
Oh yeah.
When there's a shadow, it just falls off to nothing.
Yeah.
You
the abyss.
can't see it at all. Like, you know, the brightness of Scream 2 is completely gone.
Yeah.
You know?
Oh yeah.
They do that great little moment with Deputy Judy Hicks when she's standing in the hallway and you can barely see her because she's lit
man,
so
that was scary.
spookily.
Yeah.
That was so
And it's
scary.
like, obviously, yes. And when you find out that she is not the killer, you're like, well, she's just a little weird for standing and talking in the darkness like that.
Well, she didn't know where the light switch was, you know.
I feel like 4 accomplished the same thing that 1 did, was that they presented you as anyone could be the killer, and they gave each person a moment where you're like, oh, it's them. Oh, it's them. Oh, no, it's them.
Yes.
And I thought they did a great job of that in this one, too, especially with Deputy Judy there. When, man, all you see are like her eyes.
Oh, yeah. Yep. Oh, yeah.
But it feels like more of a mystery, though, you know? Like, they definitely became... Didn't we say that? The Agatha Christie kind of...
Didn't we go back to Kevin Williamson on this one?
Yeah. And the cast is massive in this one. And so there's so many suspects.
Yeah.
Right.
There's a ton of deleted scenes from this movie, too. You can watch them on YouTube. But they really do. And when you watch those, a lot was cut out of the film. But, like, everyone really did, even if it was cut or not, had a moment where you could question, like, are they the killer? Even like Jill's mom, which is Sydney's aunt.
When that one line she's got when she's like, you know, no one paid attention to my issues or whatever. And she has that like real like downplayed line. I was like, oh man, like she's damaged. And I was like, there she is. You know, there's our new Mrs. Loomis or whatever.
Are we talking about the Mary McDonnell character?
Yeah, Mary McDonnell. Yeah,
first lady from Independence Day?
Exactly, the first lady. Liar.
Let me tell you,
exactly.
She played my mom on something recently.
Really?
Really?
And
that's amazing.
You better believe that I grilled her on everything Scream 4. I was like, tell me everything.
Oh my god.
I was like, so, love your work on Scream 4. I know you've done like all these award-winning everything. I'm like, but Scream 4 specifically. Please tell me.
Stick with me for a second.
Yeah. I'm like, do you realize what you were part of? I love it. She's amazing,
awesome.
by the way. She is so kind.
I have scars too. No one ever asked me about my scars.
She means knife scars, Mom.
Oh. Well, fine.
So that's what makes her death even more sad in the
Yeah.
film. But she gets it through
The mail slot.
That was great.
Yeah, the mail slot. Amazing.
Yeah.
I don't know if about you guys, like when you were watching, like did you guess correctly who the killer might be?
I had a feeling it was Emma Roberts. I had a feeling it was her, but only because I'm a big American Horror Story fan, and she's been the lead in all those seasons, or
she's
recent
crazy
seasons.
all the
I was
time.
like, yeah, and she's fantastic. So I was like, they've got to like, this must be where the origin of her being a scream queen came from, and so I kind of figured it was her, but I didn't know how they would do the combo, the matchup.
Yeah.
Just another film student, right? Another film geek.
Yeah. It's her
Macaulay's
classmate. Yeah. And they're like secretly together. And we'll get to the ending there because there's a lot to talk about that ending. But I think I really do love also how this film goes back to the heart and soul of the legacy characters. Like you really do feel Sydney's journey and Dewey and Gale, and that's that's what the Scream franchise is at its core, is like those characters. And
I agree.
I think you could say that like it gets a little muddled at some points in some of the films of maybe 3, where it's more about the wacky hijinks, which I've heard people describe Scream 3 as like a Scooby-Doo episode, which I love.
Yeah, I totally I agree 100%. Yeah.
So this one sort of definitely goes back to those roots, I think, of like what the original film felt like.
I know. I was expecting a little bit more maybe in this one if she didn't die. Parker Posey coming back and going on adventures with Gale again. Because the two reporters doing their thing. And
yeah.
But yeah, this one definitely went back to the horror roots of the franchise. This one went for the brutal terror.
For some reason, I called it pretty early on in Scream 2 when I saw that, like who the killer was going to be. Scream 3, I had no idea. It was almost as if they took a character they forgot about and they're like, oh yeah, that's the killer. But
it's a hat full of names.
Who's it going to be this time?
Wheel of Fortune. Oh yeah, it's this guy. And why? I don't know. Hang tight. I got an explanation for you. Hang on.
Whoever they picked out of that hat, they were like, well, you're related to Sydney now.
Yeah, exactly. How are you related now? Yeah, get out the family tree, the Prescott family tree.
Yeah.
Do you know what it was like growing up in this family? Related to you? You were always just so fucking special! Well, now I'm the special one.
Again, like with the amping up of the violence and everything, they still managed to do a callback kill in this one, which is that like I guess every black character who gets killed on screen in Scream gets a knife in the face and gets to wander around for a few more steps before they die. Like,
right.
Because Anthony Anderson, gets a knife in the forehead.
Yeah.
Opens his door, takes a few steps. It has a payoff to when they're talking about like because they're talking about like, oh, it sucks to be a cop in a movie because you always die, unless you're Bruce Willis, and like he gets stabbed in the head, and like his last final words were "fuck Bruce Willis."
And the music there too, because he's like walking with the knife in his head, and he's like swinging for some reason, and he's like stumbling. The music's like, and he like drops to his knees, and he delivers that iconic line.
Fuck Bruce Willis.
That was another thing too that I do love about this movie is like those small characters as well, or smaller characters are all so memorable. They're played by big people. They're played by
big actors. Yeah.
Established. Yeah, and that is also so Scream. Is to have like these cameos of all these like people I do love that death.
I do too. I thought the kills in this one were great. I mean, when 3 was so toned down, I mean, obviously around that time, it's probably not good to show that much violence on screen. But now, in this one, you're 2011, is that right? So let's show it all. Let's show all the gore.
Oh yeah,
especially the knife in the forehead.
Right.
If you want to see the timeline of where horror is at or what we can show on screen, just watch the Scream franchise because no spoiler, but like the 5th one does ramp it up too.
Sure. Yeah. Because now you can show anything, right? Because
literally anything.
At 7 p.m. on Channel 5 now, you got people's heads exploding. So go for it.
Is this the same year as The Walking Dead premiered?
That's when the violence on TV ramped up.
Because like the pilot of that one, where it was just like, the intense violence that, like, gave George Romero an X rating.
Day of the Dead
just became like, basic cable.
Yeah, exactly.
And
worse or more extreme.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure Rick shoots a child in the first episode.
Yes.
Like a zombified little girl.
That's the first zombie that he like encounters, or that, exactly. Yeah. As a young girl that, oof. But that's Frank Darabont at his best. I love that pilot episode.
It's so good. Oh man, it got me hooked for a few years. But
yeah, for sure.
There's even in the deleted scenes, there's so much more of the gore that's been cut out.
Oh wow.
And an interesting through line that they completely cut from the film, but the first half of the kills in all of the deleted scenes were staged like the original kills. So the two girls who are killed in the beginning, in the deleted scenes you find that the one's hanging, the one's tied to a chair, and the neighbor friend gets a doggy door around her neck. And they totally cut that out of the film, which is really interesting because they are commenting on the fact that the killers are remaking the first film. And
that would have been great to have.
They're right. So I wonder why they cut that out. But because they kept in the fact that they were filming it all and they were just trying to redo the original. But as Sydney says in this one...
Maybe it felt too derivative. Like you're like...
Well, I don't know. Sydney does say, don't fuck with the original. So
or possibly it's like a tone thing where it's like, it'd be too, I don't know, funny unintentionally that like, oh, wait, we're hanging her up and doing all this stuff after slitting her throat over here.
Yeah.
Right.
And, keeping things sort of darker and scarier was more important than, having that meta commentary.
Fair. Yeah. Because this is still a lot of commentary and meta-ness in this one. And this one, too, introduces the idea of like a stabathon, which I have had. I've had my own stabathons, and I've gone to stabathons. So, I love that I love this film for like introducing the fact that the franchise has gone on for way too long, but people treat it as like this like big drinking game and like, it really, and it helps sell the next film, which I'm not going to talk about, but like this idea of like, it really does, cultivate this fan base that, people just lose their minds over, like Scream.
Yeah.
Yeah. Let's get into the big reveal on this one.
Yeah, and, you mentioned the ending.
Particularly like some of the deaths there. I do want to talk about one of them, but Johnny, take it away.
So I talk about a monologue. So Jill Roberts, or Jill, which is Sydney's cousin, is revealed to be the one killer. And then her classmate, one of the Culkins, is the other killer, Rory. And her motive here is so good. And this is what I was saying, that it was ahead of its time, because literally their motive for doing this is they just wanted to be famous. Yeah. And they will do anything. Right. And I think in 2011, it was easy to look at that and be like, that is ridiculous. You're going to slaughter all these people, whatever. But I think now, where, on TikTok, there have been people who have live streamed deaths and murders and shit, like crazy shit. And it's just becoming more and more of a common occurrence, sort of like people doing absolutely heinous things for attention. And that's where this movie was ahead of its time. And that I buy it. Yes, of course I buy it.
Yeah. Because this is like right before that cusp where it's like social media was a thing.
Yeah.
And live streaming was happening.
And live streaming, okay, maybe.
Well, this is 2011, so this is Twitch is like starting to become a thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But what I'm getting at is like these things exist, but they're not the like hyper pervasive, totally ubiquitous things they are now because they weren't available on your phone yet.
I was just about to go because I couldn't look at it here. Yeah.
Exactly.
And that you see on the in the movie is not everyone has like smartphones, or not everyone has like iPhones or anything like that. They have like the slide ups, which seems so crazy to look at a movie from 2011 and I still see that.
But they could see the stream happening on their phones regardless, which I don't think that was so widely available yet.
Yeah, exactly.
But I think that's why this movie is, I liked it a lot, because I was like, oh yeah, this makes sense. And it's scary. Yeah.
And she says her famous line of like, friends? I don't need friends, I need fans. And it's like,
fans.
I'm like, same. I'm like, come on, let's go.
Yeah.
And I gotta give her props for just like being absolutely batshit crazy.
She's a great actress. She's awesome.
She kills her accomplice. Like, she wants to be the sole survivor. She wants all the fame. And then the crazy shit she does after...
Real quick on that there's like that parallel to Stu where it's like, oh, you got me pretty deep there. But it's like,
it's like right in the heart.
Like,
yeah, exactly. No mistaking that one.
Split his fucking sternum and popped a lung. It's like, that guy's done.
4 major arteries, or 4 major organs in that one slice. Yeah.
Oh, God. And then just the shit she does after we think that she has killed Sydney, which, of course, would be a big moment. And she thinks she's alone, and now she's going to stage herself as, like, the sole survivor. And this was so awesome to see. Like, typically in these Scream movies is like it's the survivors getting the last word. We don't get to see what would happen if we think a villain succeeded in their plan.
Like exactly,
what's after, which is what I like about
what
this.
happens next.
And then she just goes off she like throws herself into a glass coffee table.
Yes, she body slams the table.
Like she like stabs
it's like the
herself.
Fight Club self-fight there. Yeah.
It's crazy. It's like it's insane to see because like that this is like someone would do this. I don't know.
Yeah. And she grabbed that guy's hand and like scratched herself.
Yeah.
Just like she knew what she was doing. And she said she was fed up. She was like, being related to you, Sydney, it was always about you, never about me. And I wanted it to be about me. And she goes there. And I will say a lot of people I think it's split for the hospital finale, like the second finale, where a lot of people think it was tacked on, but I kind of love it. I think, I mean, obviously we need it because we need to know
it gave you like a prologue. It gave you more, like you were saying, what happened after.
Yeah, which I think like, sure, it would have been interesting to see a villain survive a Scream movie because then, you could, all right, then we know where the next one's going to go and how do we flip that on its head. But it only felt right for like Sydney to overtake the crown there, and obviously you can't kill Sydney Prescott. But it just goes so far into it that like she's like shooting up the hospital and like destroying the hospital. I'm like, there's no way you're gonna get away with this now.
No.
Like now you're just like losing your mind.
How are those stitches?
Any final words? Yeah, clear. What?
That was awesome.
She goes, and I quote it every single time. She's like, she's like, any last words? She's like, yeah, clear. And she's like, I'm like, what?
That's a good one.
The noise is so good.
It's amazing.
Clear.
And Sydney goes,
I forgot the first rule of remakes, Jill. Don't fuck with the original.
And then there I am in high school losing my mind, freaking out in the theater. I'm like, you're right.
That takes it all the way back to the first Scream, right? Where it's like, oh no, is the killer gonna survive? Bam, shot him right in the head. Nope, not in my movie, right?
Yes.
It's like, and there's that idea that like in this series we get a definite answer to whether or not the killer is going to survive to the next one.
Yes. After Scream 4, I was like, Sydney Prescott, go into hiding. Go. Get out.
Change your name, witness protection program.
Yeah. Also, I would like to mention too is that we always say Sydney is the sole victim or the survivor, the final girl, but Gail is also right there next to her every single time.
Yeah.
And Dewey too.
Dewey's been basically killed in every movie.
Yes.
You just made it.
So let's not pretend.
Did he get almost killed in this one too? Remind me.
Yeah, always.
Because I watched them all in a row, so I'm a little fuzzy. What was it in this one?
It was Gail was the one who ended up in the hospital bed towards the end, right? And then you find out the reveal of like, well, wait, how does she know about our matching stab wounds? And then Dewey makes it. He just gets clonked on the head with a
the bedpan.
The bedpan.
Right. She fucks him up with that. It was you say it as if it was like Three Stooges just hit once. Like she hit him like 14 times with that thing.
No, yeah, it was brutal.
She was standing right behind me. They always are.
I was like, damn.
Yeah, I mean that would kill somebody.
Not a guy who's gotten stabbed in the back 14 times by Timothy Oliphant and lived. So.
And then we also get Judy is a survivor in this one as well, and her famous lemon squares.
Yes.
Oh, yes, that's right.
And Gail's awesome line of like, your lemon squares taste like ass. I'll just say, people to celebrate Scream 5, the new one, people made lemon squares.
Lemon squares?
So, yeah.
Sweet.
But I like Scream 4, and it's also very nostalgic for me in that it was my first one I got to see in theaters, and it's fun to watch. Like it's also sort of relevant. It's relevant now, and there's actors that we know and recognize, especially like the young cast or whatever. So it's still fresh to me.
Yeah, no, I thought that this one was more true to form from the Scream that I remember and love. But, I didn't like it as much as I love the first one. The first one is such, we say lightning in a bottle so many times, but it really is. It just captured everything so perfectly and untouchable, yeah.
I think in the last conversation, we were talking about how these movies really kind of captured time and place, and I think this one too. I know you're saying is very prophetic, also true, but man, like getting the sort of like the Hayden Panettiere, like she was super hot at this time. Heroes, I think it just
she was the cheerleader who saved the world, man.
Yeah.
Also,
save the cheerleader, save the world.
Speaking about her character Kirby, I read this recently that a lot of people saw her as a representation of how horror entered the mainstream because she was not portrayed as like this nerdy geek who like knows everything. She was like cool. Popular and cool, and she knew her shit about horror, and it became this like. That's why I think a lot of people like gravitated towards Kirby. I love Kirby as a character, and that
Ooh,
like
Dreamweaver. Yeah.
Yes.
It's like Dream Woman. Yeah.
Yes. It's mainstream. Like it's not a weird thing to be a horror nerd. Like everyone loves horror, It's like that thing where like everyone's gonna go see a horror movie on Friday night.
Guys, quit deluding yourselves. This is very nerdy.
Which is shocking why Scream 4 didn't make any money. I didn't realize it was such a flop. But reading for this episode, I was like, wow, that's interesting. Considering the name. But 5's doing great.
5 made the entirety of 4's box office run in 3 days.
Wow.
Okay. Got a winner
but
there.
I'm so happy about it because that means we're probably definitely getting a Scream 6.
Oh yeah.
I guess real quick, just one last thing I had kind of forgotten about. Like when you were asking about was I suspecting anybody? In the beginning of Scream 4, when we first get to the high school, the guy who's kind of wearing the little like webcam on his ear, the kind of like fake Google Glass thing. Yeah, or pre-Google Glass. There were a couple like times where they would cut to him, and he just had this look on his face, and man, he looks so much like Cotton Weary. I thought, okay, there's going to be some sort of reveal with that. No.
That would have been cool though. I love that.
But I was kind of like, the radar's kind of pinging there, right? And it just happens, maybe it was cast purposely that way. I don't know, but he kind of had a little vibes there. And, he's approximately, he's a little younger than Liev Schreiber was in the first one, but, probably not by much.
Oh, is that new?
It's a 2.0 upgrade version. I'm totally mobile now.
Nice.
Before we wrap with you, Brian, let's get you to rank your Screams. For Johnny and I, that'll be a little bit different. because we've got a whole other movie to do. But let's see where you've got it.
My Scream rank right now, starting from my favorite to least favorite. 1, 4, 2, 3.
Wow. Okay. Copy.
So 1 is definitely my favorite, with 3. 3 is 3's fifth on my list, and I only have 4 movies. Let's put it that way.
I think that'll probably remain.
It keeps getting pushed down every new Scream movie. Yeah. Johnny, it's been a pleasure talking to you, man. We need to do stuff outside of the podcast world and talk horror and all that, because
I agree.
Yeah, let's make that happen.
Yeah, and thank you again for asking me to be on. But we should definitely have a Stabathon in real life, Crack open a few beers and, maybe not, we can do a different franchise, for your guys' sake.
Friday the 13th?
Friday the 13th. Yeah.
What's that, 11 movies we'd have to get through?
Yeah, something like that.
Much longer a thon.
Yeah.
But yeah, absolutely.
All right. Well, Brian, we'll catch you next time. And
with my red right hand.
Perfect.
Take it easy, gentlemen.
See ya. Ciao.
Okay, so now we can talk about Scream 5, and I'm just dying to talk about it these days.
Okay, so you're itching, you're scratching your veins right now. It's the Scream junkie is he got his fix. So I noticed you saw it again this weekend.
I saw it again last night.
Or last night.
Yeah.
How many times have you seen Scream 5 thus far?
Just 2.
Okay.
So far. I went opening night, of course. Big group. I was wearing all my Scream apparel. It was an event. It was the Super Bowl.
I think Casey put something up about that. Yeah.
Yes.
I saw you guys. Yeah.
Oh yeah,
That's
big
awesome.
Celebratory Instagram post about it being National Scream Day, and then I saw it again last night, and I plan to see it a lot more times. I am trying, even though it's doing amazing at the box office. I'm so proud of it. I'm gonna do all that I can to help it get even higher.
It's the little franchise that could.
I will say that when I watched it, of course, when we heard that there was going to be a Scream 5, of course, everyone was very skeptical because Wes Craven is no longer with us.
Yeah.
And that is his franchise. And, I mean, of course, it's Scream, so of course I was going to be excited. But when I found out who the directors were, which are the Radio Silence directing duo, they did Ready or Not from 2019, which I absolutely loved. And I was like, yes, of course. I'm happy these guys are handling it.
It's in the right hands.
They're in the right hands, and they're huge Scream fans as well. And so I knew that it was going to be for the fans. And when you watch the movie, obviously, you totally see that, and you can see how dedicated it is to Wes and how it celebrates the franchise that he helped build.
Yeah, I mean, it was literally dedicated to Wes in this one.
I cried. Yes.
Yeah.
And yes, I did order a T-shirt that says "For Wes."
Yeah.
In the amazing Scream font.
Yeah, it's funny. I don't have that same relationship you do with Wes Carpenter's movies, but no. But I seeing it at the end, that there was an emotional feeling to it, and
yeah,
and, I guess maybe I'll talk about this here a little bit, but I did know him very briefly, a little bit,
I guess I just leaned very close to the camera. Please elaborate. Please explain.
And it's nothing too exciting, but let's put it this way. I used to work in the office doing coverage for a really, really shithead director, and this guy was a complete piece of shit. And it was on the
elaborate, explain. No.
The Paramount lot, and the greatest thing was being able to be on the back lot. That was the fun part of the job. But
oh yeah,
this guy was an absolute monster. And meeting Wes in sort of a professional context a couple of times, and being on a basis where we'd be able to know who each other are, he was always just such the opposite of that. He's the most generous and nicest guy in the world. And so obviously I don't know. Maybe that had something to do with it too, like just knowing he was a really nice guy in real life. But something about seeing the dedication at the end of this, like it definitely had that moment. I was like, oh, geez, yeah. I didn't expect to be affected by it, but I was.
And you hear so many stories like that too, of how nice he was, and especially I think it really shows in the Scream franchise because of the way he handled his legacy characters and how much they meant to his audiences. But like, he's created some of the most vicious films of all time, and you always just heard that he was the complete opposite of that, which is so awesome.
And I wonder if part of that is, okay, he gets typecast as the horror guy, and when he got to make a passion project after his huge back-to-back successes of Scream 1 and Scream 2, okay, well, it's like, well, what do you want to do next? I want to do music of the heart. And, perhaps movies like that would have been what he wanted to do if he had his druthers. But, he also knew where his bread was buttered and where the fans wanted him to be.
And I'll say, if he was typecasted, can you say typecasted for directors? If he was if he was cornered into a genre, I would just like to say that we were lucky to have a person like him cornered in the horror genre because of just like the care that goes into the movies. And you can see that in the new one, even though he's not involved, because of the people who are making the film, which were Wes Craven fans.
Yeah.
And so it's almost like that thing of like, I hope you would be proud kind of thing, because this was all inspired by you, basically. Yeah. So we talk about the movie?
Let's get into it. So I think it's tough because what is another example of like someone taking over a franchise? So it's like, you look at the Terminator movies. We talked about that a lot in the last one, but like, or Saw, where it's like, as soon as James Cameron wasn't around anymore, the Terminator movies became something else, or they became these like studio things. With Scream, okay, it was always Wes, most of the time Kevin Williamson, but also the other parts of the core crew, like the same cinematographer shot all the first 4 Screams. Peter Deming. The same editor was on the first 3, but then not on the 4th one. But he had this like core group that even behind the camera that brought the films to life. And I can imagine for someone like you, as an extremely passionate Scream fanatic.
Would you say I'm a passionate Scream fanatic?
I would say that.
Is that how you would describe me?
That this would make you pretty trepidatious to like, I don't know if we can get there.
Yeah. I never thought there would be a Scream 5 ever again after Wes passed.
I mean, I have to say, like, when I first heard that this movie was coming out, and I also heard it was just called Scream, I was really annoyed at that.
Sure.
Because I was like, even in the trailer, they showed that there were existing characters from the first one, so it's not as if this is a remake. So what the fuck are they doing calling it Scream? It's like, how the 2018 Halloween movie, which is supposed to be a direct sequel to John Carpenter's first Halloween, was just
Halloween
called Halloween.
Yeah. It's this current trend of just naming these new, I mean, and they sort of do talk about it in the film, of like requels or like,
requels,
of that. You don't add a number to it because then it trips out new audiences of like not seeing it, because then they're like, do I have to go see the rest of them? It's like a marketing trick. But they do bring it up. They do sort of talk about it, and that's sort of what this movie's commentating on, of that like requel phase of like, you got to have Jamie Lee Curtis come back, but like she's got to be paired with a new fresh cast.
Right,
so you get like both, and that's what they do. Like
that was actually that was a great scene. Like they trying to like
and
it was like in Randy's sister's house. It was like
amazing.
They brought her back. Yeah.
Yes, they brought so many things back.
Or was she in the third one? She was in the third one.
She's in the third one. Yeah, she's in the third one. And so Randy's niece and nephew are big characters in this one.
Mm-hmm.
Mindy Meeks takes on the role of like the expert, right? And there's so many Easter eggs for fans in this. It was just like watching it the second time. solely for that, just like trying to pinpoint anything I can. Like even so okay, let's start off from the beginning, right?
Yeah.
So we have Jenna Ortega, and she's doing the opening kill, and this one was interesting because and we're spoiling it, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
We can spoil now. I wanted to make sure that Brian was okay.
For
but
sure.
Now that he's gone, go for it.
Okay. Well, here's Ghostface. No. So Jenna Ortega.
Oh, and actually, maybe we should pause for just 1 second to let the audience know, if you don't want to have Scream 5 spoiled for you, go ahead and pause this and come back to it when you've seen it. Okay, go ahead.
Because I really want to talk about it.
Yeah. Okay. Gloves are off. Let's go.
I haven't stopped talking about it. But was something that was fresh and new to this one was that, not only are they commentating on elevated horror, so that's films like The Babadook and The Witch, and it's like quote unquote Ghostface calls it fancy pants horror. But this opening kill was interesting because while it was brutal as hell, she gets the knife through the hand thing.
Yes, right.
But she survives it, which was super cool. And immediately my suspect radar is going off because I'm like, all right, now your sister's coming back to town, and we want the sister back to town. What's going on here? And I really did suspect that Tara, Jenna Ortega's character, was a mischievous wrongdoer. Yeah.
Or actually the new Billy. Because she gets stabbed. Yeah, because almost every time, let's go back and think about this for a second. So you have the other four memorized. Almost every time, one of the accomplice killers gets a slash in the arm as just to prove that they've been attacked, so it can't possibly be them.
Can't be them. Yeah. Exactly. Yes. So and they do that again in this one.
Yeah, they do.
Which is interesting. And so then that brings the sister back to town. And I thought it was a really, really good way of marrying the new cast with the legacy cast, because we have this totally unrelated, or so it seems, string of events. People are getting killed off, and if we want to survive this, we should go to the experts. And so that's how we get back to Dewey. And it's really heartbreaking to see how his life has turned out. So him and Gail are not together anymore, and he watches Gail's morning show every morning, and it's like, why are you doing this to yourself? And
real quick on that, what I kind of really appreciated about this movie is that you could potentially just go from Scream 1 to Scream 5.
Yeah, absolutely. Which is the Requel rules.
Yeah, and get the whole Gail and Dewey saga in this movie.
Yeah.
And that's something that I feel like these directors in particular really, really did so well in this movie in particular. It's they were able to balance all these different tones. There's comedy in it. There's definitely horror in it. But there's also sort of pathos in it. You feel for all the sort of characters, especially the legacy character stories. The heartbreaking scene with Gail and Dewey talking to one another.
I cried
on the lawn, and it actually is effective. It's not the sort of telenovela fake drama that we got in some of the Scream 3, right?
Yeah.
It's you actually do feel for these characters. Sorry, go ahead.
Absolutely. That's 100%. And to see how their lives have turned out. I don't know if you noticed this, but Dewey had Tatum's ashes on his mantle as well. So it was touches like that I really, really loved, because you could tell that the directors took care of the material.
Yeah.
But something that they were really smart in doing is utilizing Stab as a movie to refresh everything that the audience needs to know. Because in the beginning scene, when Tara is on the phone with Ghostface and he's giving her horror movie trivia, it's not about other horror movies, it's about Stab. And so she's just recounting the events of the first movie, which immediately lets the audience know everything you need to know. And it lives and exists in the world of Scream.
Right.
And they are able to directly talk about Scream through the lens of Stab.
Yeah.
It's great.
Well,
it's
also,
so good.
like we talked about last time, the the way in which they sort of weave in all of the stab stuff, all the meta stuff, like even in this one. So I believe in the fourth one they reference how the stab movies sort of like started to become their own thing after X number of stabs.
I thought you said Stab was based on true stories. The first three, the original trilogy, is based off of Sidney Prescott. But then she threatened to sue them if they used her story, so then they just started making stuff up. Stab 5 has time travel, which is by far the worst.
And then they kind of bring that back in this one, and they have, you know, the Richie character like watching on YouTube, like trying to get like an explainer video of all 8 stab movies.
Yes.
And he's like, and like the like YouTube personalities are talking about how like, oh well, at a certain point it kind of slides off the rails because they got rid of the signature weapon and they cut to the flamethrower.
Incredible.
Which is something that was like in the trailer. So like as someone like for you who was like you're super familiar with the franchise, you were like, what the fuck? What the fuck?
No, literally.
They fucked it up. They fucked it up.
And his mask was different. It was a
got
chrome.
you. Yeah.
It was a chrome mask. Yes, they did fucking get me because oh god, the trailer is so not what it is too. When you watch it back, it's so great to like see the trailer and then watch the movie and be like, oh, that's not what I thought at all.
Right.
And also I'd like to mention those YouTubers are in the movie are real YouTubers in real life. And I went to their wedding this past weekend. And James and Chelsea, Demi James is the account, and they run an amazing podcast. And my big flex for the week and probably the rest of my life is that Radio Sounds, the directors, were there. And I geeked out with them for like 30 minutes.
You're like, here's my card. Here's my IMDb.
Literally. I was like, just so you know, Scream is why I wanted to become an actor, and there's nothing that means more to me in this earth.
You're like,
than
oh
this
yeah, I
franchise.
gotta refill my drink. See you later, buddy.
No, I was like, okay, I'll tell them this eventually, but I was like, I need to get at least 2 drinks in me before I. No, they were super awesome, super cool, and like again, film geeks who could just talk about horror, and it was amazing. And so to see that on YouTube, like having again existing in the current time period of like where we have YouTube channels like CinemaSins and like all of these YouTube accounts that just like shit on movies and talk about like rip apart films. It really does create this like community of just like we feel like we own these movies because we can have a voice publicly on the internet about which obviously plays into the eventual motive of the film or of the killers. But another cool thing was that they brought back Judy, Deputy Judy, and sadly she bites the bullet. But you want to talk about violence, like this movie went there because after her death, her son, seeing that knife slide through the neck and watching it happen, like we're not cutting away, like we're watching it go through the neck, was brutal.
Well, because it was like it goes in, and then we get the sort of like reverse shot on Ghostface's blank face.
Yeah.
And then we come back, and it starts popping out the other side of the neck.
Ooh.
And then we just sit there. We sit there for, like, if in Scream 4 we sat there for like 3 beats, in this one we were sitting there for like 5 beats. It was like, insane. My God. We watch him go from living to completely expired. It's like, it was wild. Yeah.
I mean, even that first attack, and then you see Tara in the hospital.
Sorry, real quick on that, like what appeared to be anyway, practical effects looked amazing.
So good.
I mean, I don't know if they were or not, but like it looked convincing. Let's put it that way.
Absolutely, and just like the level of violence in like that first attack, and then Tara is like in the hospital, cannot escape the hospital because she keeps getting. But like the pain that she, first of all, Jenna Ortega is incredible. Who plays Tara. But like her trying to like push that wheelchair and like her hand, you could just feel the pain.
Actually, okay, on that one, I will give him a little shit, which is that like during that scene, yes, I was definitely feeling it. During the scene where Sam, her sister confesses, "Oh wait, Billy Loomis was my dad, not yours." But da 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 da. Like, I feel like, okay, so Tara got fucking destroyed when she got attacked.
Yeah.
And in the hospital, she was a little too perky a couple times. It was just like
when you find out who lives at the end of this movie too, after seeing them being like wham 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 wham, like in the gut, I'm like, but let's be real, this is still the Scream franchise, and people are slightly more invincible than
right.
That includes Ghostface as well.
Well, and when we get to the other hospital scene, there's a moment where it was like, I feel like that person got stabbed a lot more and didn't die in the second one. But anyway, keep going.
He does mention that he was. I love when we see Dewey though, and he's like, "No, I'm not joining you on this. I've been stabbed 9 times. I've been shot 3 times. Like, no."
Yeah.
And okay, 2 things, 2 directions I want to go. But first, mentioning how he warns Sydney not to come to Woodsboro, and she's like, "Oh, you don't have to worry about that. I'm not coming to Woodsboro."
Yeah.
I know better. She says, "I'm Sydney fucking Prescott. Of course I have a gun. I'm not stepping foot in that town again."
Sid, it's happening again. Some idiot in a Ghostface mask. 3 attacks so far. Something about this one just feels different. Do you have a gun?
I'm Sydney Prescott. Of course I have a gun.
And then his text to Gail, which was so funny and so sad at the same time. He just says, "Ghostface is back. Do not come here. Hope you're well, smiley face."
Yeah. Oh, I know, it's heartbreaking.
It's heartbreaking. But there, of course, those 3 are not the only people who come back, because Billy Loomis comes back in the form of hallucinations.
Which is kind of a callback to 3, right?
A little bit. Which I was not expecting at all.
Yeah.
Which caught me so off guard that I nearly I got whiplash in the theater. I was like, what? As soon as that happened, when Sam sees him in the reflection of the mirror, that's when I knew, literally, they're going to go, anything could happen in this movie, because they are taking risks and making choices. But it really introduced something super interesting in terms of her character. But like the idea that, okay, so Sam is the daughter of Billy Loomis. So while Billy wasn't getting it in with Sydney, he went off and had sex with some other student. And now we have this child of a serial killer, and she's hallucinating him. And so right off the bat, you're like, she's not the killer? Because like, that's a pretty psychotic thing to be going through.
Yeah. Well, as someone who had just watched Scream 3 like a day before, I was like, okay, I'm prepared for this. I know what happens. Like, just seeing visions of your dead parent doesn't necessarily mean that you're the killer.
Right. Yeah, true, fair. But it was so insane. And then the way that they worked that in, of like, okay, so the killer's motive, which we will get to, is like they want to bring it back to the roots of the film.
Yeah.
How do you do that? Well, it's got to involve the people of the past. And so like, I really was shocked by, I think I was guessing everyone at some point to be the killer. But then as people started dying,
even the legacy cast, you're guessing.
Yes. Well, no, not me. And I'll tell you why. Because I said, I think that would be a disservice to Wes's characters, even though Kevin Williamson wrote them.
Yeah.
But like, to have that type of arc, I don't know if they would, but they have the means to. I mean, they pinpoint Dewey as possibly being the serial killer. I mean, the killer. And they give him a motive. Yeah, they give him a motive of like, so basically they're like, well, you could be the killer because you've been brutally attacked all your life, and your wife dumped you and became super famous, and blah, blah, blah. Or like all that shit. And he goes, that really cut deep.
Yeah. Okay, yeah.
But I never suspected. I think you totally could, but I personally never did. I suspected the legacy characters. And then Judy died, and then I mean, really, I think we got to talk about good old Dewey.
Yeah. Which one is Judy? Sorry.
Judy is she was the deputy.
Oh, the deputy. Sorry.
The Lemon Squares.
Yes,
Lemon Squares.
Yes.
Yeah.
Hicks. Right.
And so she got a son in this one, and that's what it was all sort of going to, is like everyone was connected to someone from the past, and even Kyle Gallner, who is the second kill or I guess the first kill of the movie, that like drunk guy in the bar.
He was like the creepy older guy who was
Yes.
supposed to be dating someone or stalking
Yes.
someone.
Yeah, and they brought back Red Right Hand in such a great way.
Yes, I was just about to bring that up. Yeah.
I think I freaked out about that the most. I was like, oh yes.
Because, remind me, they didn't have a Red Right Hand in 4, right?
I don't think they did.
Because I remember it was like, okay, there was definitely like a couple different scenes in 1. They had a callback in 2, and I feel like they didn't do it. They had a cover in 3.
Yeah.
And I think they abandoned it in 4, or maybe I'm just not
4
remembering.
4
it.
also used different font. That one just had a different style. Like it really did. This one went back to the original.
Yeah.
But he was Stu's sister's son.
Well, and they worked it in an interesting way of like having it be kind of scorce, where it's like half source music, half score, because it's like they turn on the car and you hear it playing on the radio, and then he's like, "What? Who turned on my car?" And then,
oh god, it's just that.
Yeah.
But he was revealed to have been related to Stu. So also, I don't know if you noticed, he had 1428 tattooed on his hand. I think that's the right number.
Okay.
Of that's the house address on Elm Street.
Oh.
So like,
I was like, okay,
just
is
a
that
lot
the
of stuff
Stephen
like
King
that.
short story? Like, what are we talking about?
Oh no, that's 1408.
I used to live in this house. That's just a house I dream about.
All right. Okay. Dewey. I cried.
Well, okay. So here's the thing. The Dewey decimal system that we went through in this movie, it was a bummer. My wife got upset about that one too. She's like, "Oh, he was my favorite character." But during that scene, it's like we come back to this idea that I brought up earlier, or on I think the last episode at this point. But like, once you put on that ghost face costume, you gain some sort of supernatural powers, because the tiny woman who was supposed to have been in that costume and slashed the guy on the wrist so that we didn't think it was him as part of the gang, was able to, like a fucking corn cob holders, like double knife him, and just using her trap muscles was able to like pick him off the ground. This like 220 pound like wrestler versus like a 95 pound woman. She had quite the muscles back there.
100%.
Yeah. she was ready to compete on ESPN3 against those Icelandic giants.
Yes. It sort of goes back to Scream 4, like with Emma Roberts and being like, I mean, after seeing her at the end of that movie, I'm like, yeah, she definitely could have. But it's always so funny to find out who the killer is and then watch those sequences again and being like, incredible.
Yeah.
Absolutely love it. But here's the thing with Dewey's unfortunate demise is that I think a lot of people felt that it was coming. I definitely suspected that he may be killed off in this one.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't want to believe it.
Yeah. I mean, when did you feel that in the movie itself?
Well, I'll say I definitely didn't expect it to be so soon, or like midway through the film.
Yeah.
But I understand why it happened, because it was the only way to get Sydney and Gail back to Woodsboro. But I sort of suspected it. Trailer and everything. It was like speculated for a long time, and some people were like, "Oh, Sydney's gonna die." I was like, "You cannot kill Sydney, and you can't kill Gail. Who could you kill then, if not,
Yeah, we're running out of options here.
Yes, but I think it was, and they talked about this too, and David Arquette talked about, like, he understood. He was sad when he read it, but he understood because it was the only way to get them back to town is if you kill off Dewey.
Yeah,
and that sequence afterwards. Also, Dewey, why did you walk over to shoot Ghostface?
You have a gun. You
can
have
shoot from gun, please. No, but that sequence was, oh god.
No, there is such and this is what I'm getting at with like this, like the Ghostface costume. Again, it's almost like Freddy Krueger in the dream realm. It's like all of a sudden you put that on, and there are different rules that apply, and it's like you can't just walk away. You can't turn your back, because otherwise, like a ninja, Ghostface is gonna disappear. He had to go over there and like execute, right in the face.
Yeah.
And he had that walk, that awful walk from the elevator.
Yeah.
Back to the little, I don't know what it was, a trophy case or something in the middle of the hospital there.
Also, that killer got very lucky that he didn't just shoot, because clearly they were awake and waiting for the moment to like stab him. Like, they could have absolutely been killed off right then and there. That took a lot of guts to still sit there and like not move.
Yeah.
For suspense, my God.
But again, Ghostface is perfect at playing possum. I think it happens in all the movies where, he's knocked out or whatever. They look one direction and all of a sudden he's gone,
Gone. Yeah, absolutely. And then so then Sydney and Gail, they're in town. I also love the way that they handled Sydney. Even though they were posed as like the leads of this film, they're like on a different level. Because definitely the main characters are Sam and her boyfriend and her sister, and the legacy characters sort of exist to like oversee it all in a way.
Right.
Because Sydney's mentality in this one is like, I don't fuck with this shit anymore. I'm over it. Right. She has that amazing line where she like says, I'm bored, and hangs up on Ghostface. Incredible.
Yeah.
And I love that for Sydney. That's all I wanted, was her to have a good life, and it sounds like she does. And
if only she could have, just stayed. Yeah.
Yeah. And she'll come back. She'll finish the shit, get it over, and she'll go back to her good life. She does not let it affect her anymore. And to find that she, has a nice family, whatever. Which, by the way, they say that her husband's name is Mark. And would that be Mark Kincaid from Scream 3? I think so. Patrick Dempsey.
Okay.
Will he be coming back for Scream 6?
Yeah,
I hope so.
You know what's funny? I guess we didn't really talk about it when we talked about Scream 3, but like there was something about that ending.
Real weird.
A little made-for-TV movie, but like, she's like, okay, I'm gonna leave the door open. She's like over it or whatever. It was supposed to be the end of the series or whatever, but like, also, what was Patrick Dempsey doing there? Well, it seems like he was starting whatever this became, a relationship that ended up in 2 kids and living in another city and whatever else.
Yeah. Well, you get a lot of characters in this franchise too that like become characters, and then they don't get a death, but then they never show up again. And it's like, well, why didn't we kill those sorority girls in Scream 2? Like they were like popping in all the time. Like, give us a fun death.
Yeah.
Sydney, you made it. Hi. No, I really mean that. Hi.
Never get killed off. Patrick Dempsey survives, but we never see him again. I would love for him to return for Scream 6. Like maybe he's like, you heard about his wife, he's gonna come. I'm just saying. Now I'm just like spitballing you. But so then like shit goes down. Yeah. So like now shit's going down, and we're gonna have a big party to honor Dylan Minette's character Wes, which is named Wes. And they have this big party, and there's this big banner that says "For Wes," and they do a toast in this party. And
right. And real quick, it is very recognizable as the same house in the first one, but like, were we supposed to know that it was the same house? Just
no,
then?
I don't think so. I mean, I obviously absolutely knew.
Yeah. For
but they do have it as a big reveal when Sydney puts a tracker on Sam's car, and of course, I love that concept that Sam says, like, we're going to do what people never do in these situations, and we're going to get the fuck out of town.
Yeah.
But then, of course, they get derailed because they have to stop and get her inhaler at this house. They don't reveal the exterior at all until Sydney and Gail, they put a tracker on her car, and they're like, oh shit, she's in Stu Macher's house, and they call her. And then you get that awesome shot of like, it comes out of like the door, and you see like the house, and we're at the finale house of Scream 1, which was super, super cool. But to go back to the whole West thing, they do a toast, and I read recently, just the other day, that they invited a ton of legacy cast and crew from the franchise to ADR the toast, which I thought was like really, really awesome.
That's cool.
Just another way they were honoring the, Wes. But, and then, of course, shit goes down in the house. And we get that really awesome... I love in this one where everyone is like, I don't trust you. You could be the killer. Like the...
I'll be right back. Oh, never mind. Oh, he's
yeah,
dead.
yeah.
I'll be right back.
He's dead.
Yeah. But like, I love that like everyone in this one is like, it really helped with selling how you don't know who the killer is, because everyone is like claiming they're the killer as a joke, but also accusing everyone. And she's like, you want to go upstairs and to have sex? And he's like, I don't know that you're not the killer, so I don't think so. And she gets all mad.
And how interesting was it? Like, so right after that scene, we get that's the sort of jock football player guy. He goes out to the shed. I can't remember what he was even doing out there, but like,
he was looking for the girlfriend he just pissed off, and he got the find my fam request thing so they could share their location. So he's like following it, and he's like, wait a thing.
But then they like, so he starts getting chased, and they almost but not quite recreate the Drew Barrymore, the ramping slow mo like iconic shot.
Run. Yeah.
But there was something like where it's like there was supposed to be kind of an homage in there. I feel like
100%
to the first one,
all over the place too. Even like that amazing moment when Mindy Meeks is watching Stab on the TV, and it's the part where Randy is saying like, "Turn around, Jamie, turn around." But so she's watching Stab, which is basically the Scream that we know, and then she realizes like, wait a second. She turns around. Yep, there's Ghostface. She's like, I know better. And she gets attacked, and then that's when like the Welcome to Act 3, like we're about to go in there.
Yeah.
And I thought it happens so in the chaos of everything that like the girl comes in, she's like, oh my God, I found so and so's blood everywhere, and she's like, I'm not the killer, and Amber is like, I know. Because I am. And she pulls out the gun and shoots her right in the head. I was like, what? And then she turns and the camera comes up and she's like, welcome to Act 3. And I was like, whoa, what?
Fuck you, Amber. I'm not a fucking killer. I know.
Welcome to Act 3.
And then it just breaks out into this big like battle and everything. And then Sydney and Gail show up. And
what was great about that was we already had the reveal of
one of the killers.
And then we get to the like breaking the tension moment of like, are you ready for this? I never am, or whatever. Yeah. Walking in, and then they see someone on the porch and they're like, can we trust this?
Yes.
And they ask themselves that while they're walking up. And then like halfway through the act, like she gives up, she's like, oh fuck it, and starts shooting back at them.
It's easily one of my favorite moments from the film.
Yeah.
100%, because we have just seen her admit that she's a killer, right? So she like comes out doing this performance.
Yeah.
And it's so over the top, right? And like just the fact that like Gail and Sydney are like, they're like, no, it's a trap. Clearly. And she's like giving her all, and there's like, please help me. She's like, oh fuck it. And she pulls out the gun, and there's like a shootout, like an old fashioned Western shootout happens. And Gail immediately gets shot, and she's like, oh, go finish it. And then Sydney gets a phone call, and she's like going through I love this too, because she goes through the house the same way Dewey did with his gun in the first movie, as when he first comes in. And she's talking to Ghostface, and she's like, you need to get some new material.
And I love how she always does these things where she'll do the like, she shoots first before she opens a closet door. And like,
amazing. Because she knows better. She knows that back in the past, he was in this door. I'm going to shoot this door.
And it's one thing to like be aware of the big-breasted girl that should be running out the front door when whatever. And then to have already experienced it and then trying to change the outcome there.
Exactly. And she's like so over it. She literally says, I'm bored, and she like hangs up the phone. And I was like, oh my God, I couldn't love her more. And then she finds Jack Quaid's Richie in the closet. And he's like, I'm just hiding from the killer. But obviously we then find out when he surprise stabs his girlfriend Sam, and is like, "I know it's disappointing, it's me," and I was like,
Right.
"What?" So now, once I found out who the killers were, I was like, "Give me the motive. Tell me how these two people are connected."
You know what's funny? Okay, at that point, I started thinking, okay, what are they going to do that's different? And I kept thinking, there's going to be a third killer, isn't there?
I 100% expected a third killer.
And like, no joke, like after we've kind of dispatched all the killers, I kept like waiting for that, like, there's going to be something else.
Yeah. Oh, I 100%. I do wonder, not to jump the gun, but because I'm positive there will be a Scream 6, if any one of the surviving members of Scream 5
Turned
was
out to
also
have
a third
been,
killer,
yeah.
that would be an interesting take. But so one thing I did think was interesting about how they did change it is that it was less of the villains overpowering the final victims.
Mm-hmm.
It was literally the final victims beating the shit out of the killers. And it felt so satisfying.
But again, like, so just like in all the other movies, when the killers reveal themselves, they're doing it as the mask off and like, hey, it's me. It's been me the whole time. Fuck you. I'm going to do this thing and I'm going to stage you like this and da-da-da. And there's still obstacles to overcome, but now we're in mortal territory again. And it's like we've got to this point where they can be overpowered and they do have to obey certain laws of physics and whatever that Ghostface doesn't have to obey.
Right, because if you were to watch Amber kill Dewey without the Ghostface costume, you'd be like, "Whoa, my God!"
You're like, holy fucking
shit. Yeah.
Just, lifting telephone poles and whatever else. But then you start getting into everybody's motivations and everything got really complicated. All the Screams get complicated. It maybe, which one was it? Like, was Scream 3 the most complicated one? I can't remember.
Yeah, that's the one, half brother.
Yeah, so it's like, and because it's all one person delivering it, it's like a huge monologue, and there's like much more, like, a rapid fire dialogue.
Yeah.
But in this one, you get some of that, and then you also get Jack Quaid doing, I don't know, his father's smile, like that really wide smile and his gigantic cheeks. That, like, man, does Dennis Quaid have that same look on his face?
He absolutely, actually, okay. Funny enough, Dennis Quaid played my dad in Mary McDonald playing my mom in that same project. Yes. So had I known, I would have been like, get your son on the phone now.
Yeah. But next time Dennis Quaid plays your dad.
Yeah. No, but I will say they totally sold it. Yeah. I thought Jack Quaid and Mikey, what's her last name?
Madison.
Who played Amber, Mikey Madison. So great. And I love...
This is Amber.
Yes. I actually love the motive on this one because it is, I think, the most simple in that they just didn't like... They didn't like Stab 8, and they are the epitome of toxic fandom of like, these movies belong to us, not anyone else, and you guys are shitting all over it. And that we didn't like Stab 8, so we want the next Stab to go back to the original roots. Well, how do you do that?
Yeah.
Well, they're going to base it off of the real life if it happens again. So let's go back to the original, like, kill off everything. I was like, I'm here for that. I absolutely love that because it's so like insane, and I think it'll age well.
Yeah, well, I mean, like, talk about being of its time too, right? It's like you talked about how all the other movies like kind of had that feeling, and this one does too. But I'd say it's of its time, but it also executes it the way you wish other movies would do it. You know what I mean? It's like, if we're in a world that cannot produce original IP, it can't produce a new Star Wars, it can't produce a new Scream, it has to retread old Screams and old Star Wars and everything else.
Yeah.
In such a world, this is kind of what would be hoping to get,
Yeah, agree. And we had that awesome moment of Amber being like, no, wait, actually, don't kill me, please. I don't know, I was just radicalized.
Yes. I'm sorry, I killed Dewey.
yeah. And they're like, fuck you. No.
I know. And I forgot what the setup was. That like, they like broke a bottle of alcohol over her head.
Like hand sanitizer or something.
Oh, hand sanitizer. Yeah. And then when she got like blasted like 18 times by Gale, fell onto the burners.
Ignites
just completely like
on
exploded.
Fire.
Yeah, on fire.
I'm sorry, not to me. Fuck you.
I was out of my seat howling. Yeah. I was like, this is everything. And that's what I love too, is that like the killers got their shit handed to them. Like they got...
No, it's so satisfying. It's like, it's close to that feeling you got when Billy Loomis like woke back up in the first one.
Yes.
And then got executed in the forehead. You know?
Yes. And then, of course, we've been like sort of teasing. So we know Sam's dad is Billy Loomis, and he appears to creep her out.
How you doing, Sam? Antipsychotics aren't working as well as they used to, are they?
Fuck you.
But also to sort of like motivate her to like overcome this challenge. And like, he's the one who like tells her, pick up that knife, basically. And oh my God, I will say when I absolutely fell in love with Sam was the moment when she just goes to town on Jack Quaid.
I know, she pincushioned his ass. Like, it's...
Melissa Barrera went for it, and I was like, oh, no, we need to lock her up after this. Yeah. Like, for real, we need to lock her up. I don't trust this woman walking around the streets. She's going to be an issue.
This is satisfying revenge, but I think you should be taken out of society. Thank you.
And yes. And I was just like, Jesus Christ. Like, and then she stabs it through his like mouth. You can see the blade go through his mouth.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. There's another one like that. Yeah.
And she just like totally like, I'm maybe 50 times. And
what was the line? It was like, the daughter of a serial killer.
Yeah, she's like, you forgot a new rule, like never fuck with the daughter of a serial killer.
Yeah.
And he's like, what about my big ending? And she's like, well, here it comes. And she slashes his throat. I was like, lock her up for some time, please. Thank you for doing your work. Thank you for your service. But like, oh, yikes. And so I'm very excited to see in a new movie how that continues. I'm very excited to see that storyline. And then, of course, Amber comes back to life for a second. Yeah. And Jenna Ortega gets the last shot and says, I still prefer the Babadook. Amazing line.
Right.
Yeah. And it really is just like, I just thought it did such a great job of introducing a new cast of main characters that could carry on the franchise for another set of films.
Yeah.
And utilize the legacy characters in a way that wasn't overplayed or in your face, like a very good way to honor them and like utilize them, and they could return, but like they really did set it up for like a good new dawning of the Scream franchise.
Yeah, that's true. I guess it could be interesting to kind of like pick up with the Sam character and see where that goes, but I think it's interesting because in a way, I didn't think about this going into it, but coming out of it, I thought, wow, this felt like almost a direct sequel to the first one. Mm-hmm. And just like the marketeers were hoping, if you hadn't seen 2, 3, and 4, possibly even 1, you could have just gone into this and, gotten something out of it.
Yeah.
Whereas I guess maybe some of the other sequels, you kind of had to have some of that prior knowledge. Yeah. In this one, they took that Scream 4 idea and then kind of pushed it a little further. And it's interesting because, again, like it feels like this could have been a direct sequel, and in a direct sequel to a sort of over the top and dramatic and, groundbreaking movie as Scream 1, it kind of made sense to have the main characters take this sort of back seat and, have it, they're still there. It's part of it. I know that's like came into it with the Requel thing.
Mm-hmm.
But it also gave the first movie an interesting ending that you could have almost like passed over some of the other ones to just get straight to this one.
Yeah.
And it made some of that stuff satisfying. And I feel like what that had to do with was the way that we were talking about how they didn't shortchange the character stuff. And they really, really made you feel for Dewey. It's like, not only does he still really care for Gail, and he hopes she's safe, and oh, isn't it awkward that I'm texting you, and I really hope you're doing well. But he also like cares so much for Sydney, and he was so concerned with her, and like having that conversation with her, and feeling kind of awkward about it, but also wanting to do the right thing. And so you feel it so much more, even if you hadn't watched all those other movies with Dewey, because of those character traits. You'd feel it in this one when he gets it, and like you really want that revenge for his death in that ending, and it pays off so well.
Absolutely, and you hit it on the head with like they honored the characters very well, because like it was so effective, and like I was eating up those scenes between them, even though I was enjoying the new cast. Like anything that was coming out of the legacy characters' mouths was just like you just know them, you feel them, you know them. And it works so well. And even when Gail and Sydney kill Amber via oven, there I noticed this on the second watch. The flames are there, but they're standing in front of the 4 West sign, the banner, and it was
cool.
just this awesome painting of like, hell yeah,
yeah.
Like,
well, and it had this little like maybe subtle nod to Nightmare on Elm Street, right? It's like the burn victim.
Yeah.
Like
maybe she'll come back in the
burning
dream.
a psycho alive. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. She'll be the one haunting Sam's dreams, not her father. Yeah.
Hoped the Meeks niece and nephew, they survived at the end, and I hope they bring that up in the next one. I hope they make a mention of like, well, God, if Amber comes back in our dreams, don't be surprised.
Wait, the football player survived too?
He survives. So okay. He gets a Dewey revival.
Okay.
In that
he gets
when
Dewey.
Mindy, when Mindy is rolled out on a stretcher, she like looks and she like sees her brother's alive in the other hospital or in the ambulance, and they're like, "Hey, we survived." Yeah, I love it.
Sounds about right.
That also reminds me to bring up my favorite topic about the Scream movies, which is that in this one we had a revival of the Broken Arrow theme song. For Dewey, right to the heart. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh God, hearing it gives me chills. We ordered the vinyl record of the score, so I'm
for this
very
one.
Excited. Yes, so I'm very excited
cool.
to listen to it. Oh God. So I enjoyed it.
Yeah. So you liked it. You don't say. Yeah.
So yes, I'm so excited to see where it could go.
Yeah.
And I want to be in it. I want to be in the next one.
Yeah. Well, for your sake, I hope they do have another one, not only for your fandom, but also to get you cast in there somehow. You can play, let
me play the
other Hicks
knife.
Brother.
I'll play the knife. I'll play the next bottle that gets shattered on someone's head. Please. No.
For myself, I'm another sequel is Guilty Until Proven Innocent, just as this one was for me. It was proven innocent. I did enjoy it. I think if we were to do our rankings again for this one, for me it would be probably, let's see, 1, 5. I don't know, either 1, 5, 2, 4, 3. I guess that's what it is. I mean, I 4 may move up to the third spot, but
mine has been changing a lot. Because 2 and 4 switch for me to being second. So a lot of times it was 1, 2, 4, 3 or 1, 4, 2, 3.
Mm-hmm.
And then I saw 5 and I think it might be 1, 5, 2, 4, 3 or 1, 5. What's the opposite?
4, 2, 3.
4, 2, 3.
Yeah.
It's interchangeable. Because at first I was like, oh, well, I mean, 1 and 2 I love so much, so like 1 and 2, 5, 4, 3. But then I fell way in with this one, and it moved way up the ranks. I think
I'll be more firm on that. Okay, 1, 5, 2, 4, 3. Because 2, I really, really enjoyed a lot of those like suspense scenes.
Yeah.
Those are really well done.
Yeah.
And Dewey's fake death in that one.
Great. And the opening of that one is amazing as well.
Yeah.
They introduced Stab.
Yeah.
But yes, all in all, I really think I was just very happy to see that it was in really good hands. Clearly it showed for me personally.
Totally.
And I was eating every second of it up, and I'm going to watch it a billion times because that's who I am by nature.
Yeah.
In terms of the Scream franchise, and I'm just so happy it turned out the way it did. It was so fun and just really awesome.
Johnny, this is so much fun. Thanks for coming back to do our second part of wrapping up Scream. Sorry that Brian couldn't stick around for this one, but I think it's better for him to watch the movie unspoiled.
100%.
And see it the right way. So, where can people follow you?
They can follow me. They can follow me at Johnny Berchtold on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok. I'm on there actively talking about Scream. So yeah, you can follow me there. Yeah,
what
and thank you for what a surprise. Thank you for having me on again to continue talking about the love of my life. I do hearing myself say this and speak about it. Sometimes I like go into out of body experience, and I'm like, he needs to calm down. He really needs to calm down. Maybe we should lock him up.
Yeah.
So
no,
my
it makes for a better show when you're getting hyped up.
You know, I like to
you
think
clearly are. All right. Well, thanks so much. And this is gonna be weird for me. I'm gonna be signing off here. All right, everybody. Well, thank you so much for listening. Be sure to subscribe and follow us on all the podcasts and social platforms at the Grindhouse Institute. And if you really want to give us a boost, check us out on Apple Podcasts and leave us a rating and review. It helps us to get noticed. Thanks so much, everybody. We'll be back next week. And I'll also say, ciao.
That's good. That's good.
That's good. Look at that.
Even your friends.
My friends? What world are you living in? I don't need friends. I need fans.